Now, 1 year on from the London Paralympic Games, campaigners say attitudes towards disabled people have not improved. A poll by the disability charity Scope says that many disabled people feel they're labelled as scroungers, and some even think their lives have become worse. The charity says progress made after the Paralympics has been undermined by a crisis in living standards. But the Department for Work and Pensions insists that the UK is a world leader in supporting people with disabilities. Well, the Paralympic opening ceremony a year ago was followed by a gold rush among British athletes. By the time the Games ended, they were hailed as a breakthrough. Ed Thomas reports.
There was plenty to celebrate at the London 2012 Paralympics. And it wasn't just the success on the track that was applauded. Many believed it would be a breakthrough in changing attitudes. But exactly a year on, its legacy is being questioned. A survey of more than 1,000 disabled UK adults found that 81% felt that attitudes towards them had not improved, and 22% believed that life had got worse in the 12 months since the Games. The survey also found deeper social issues when it comes to disability, with 8 out of 10 people concerned about being branded benefit scroungers and concern over living standards, with some relying on high-interest loans.
That's it, keep it going, really hit that, come on, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Last year, people were inspired by what they saw on the track, but this survey shows more still needs to be done. The survey did find that more disabled people were taking part in sport, but the challenge now is bridging the gap between our elite Paralympians and the day-to-day life for the wider disabled community. Ed Thomas, BBC News.
Well, let's speak now to Ian McRAE. Ian is editor of Disability Now. It's a national website for disabled people. Ian, thank you for coming into the studio. I suppose everybody thought when they watched those wonderful Paralympics last year that things would change, and because people so admired the athletes on the track.
That's right. The thing about the Paralympics really was that it, like the Olympics, you know, they're big sporting events. They happen in a bubble of sort of hyper-reality that bears no relationship to anything that happens in the real world. And I think there was a lot of false expectation that suddenly the general public would see these fantastic disabled sports people, and that they would, overnight, their attitudes towards the general run of disabled people would then change. That was always, you know, an empty hope, I think.
Yeah. So we heard Ellie Simmonds, the swimmer, earlier saying that she had never really experienced any abuse or anything like that, and neither had her friends. But then you're saying, well, she wouldn't because she lives in this sort of bubble.
Well, that's
with due respect.
You know, yes, if you talk to any Paralympic athlete, you know, I've talked often to Baroness Tanni Grey-Thompson about this, and she says she spent her entire time, all the time she was winning those 11 gold medals, she was in this bubble. People outside that were saying to her, you should be speaking out on the things that are happening to disabled people. And she said, well, I'm a sports person. I'm here to win gold medals. That's exactly what Ellie and David Weir and the rest of the Paralympic athletes were there to do. Ellie also said that she believed there were some disabled people who were abusing the benefit system. I'm afraid the evidence doesn't support that belief. We all are aware that in the sort of disability community that the levels of benefit fraud on disability benefits is absolutely tiny. And what's more is most of the stories you will see about benefit fraud of disability benefit, it's people pretending to be disabled. It's not disabled people themselves. So there's no real support for that belief that we are a bunch of scroungers and cheats.
I think she did slightly contradict herself. She did say she didn't really mean to say that in the interview, but would you agree with the statement that there is a crisis in living standards for some disabled people?
Definitely. We talk all the time to disabled people through Disability Now, through our website, what we hear from them on the website, and through the social networks. You know, I have my own accounts and the Disability Now accounts. And the stories we're getting are very definitely that people feel besieged, threatened, you know, the chances of losing, for example, losing social housing because somebody decides that you have an extra room for which you need to pay a penalty is a real threat to many disabled people, and standards of living are very, very definitely.
And yet, very briefly, the government says that it's a world leader in looking after disabled people.
I'd say prove it. You know, it says we spend £50 billion on supporting disabled people at work. What does that mean? They probably somebody said to me earlier today, they probably spend £50 billion a year making sure there's enough toilet paper around the civil service. You know, it's a figure, and I'd just like to see the proof of it.
Ian, some interesting thoughts there. Ian McRAE from Disability Now. Many thanks.
Thank you.